He's let all of us know if we're a redneck over the years, and Jeff Foxworthy is bringing the funny to bring the funny on NBC. Joining us on the line. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, Joe. Hey, Jeremy. How are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks.
Good. Well, I just said before we went on the air that we need more laughter these days. The world is a crazy place.
Yeah, I think part of the success of the show is based on that. And I don't know about you. I don't ever remember the country being this uptight and angry in my lifetime. And I was telling somebody not long ago, I'm like, we need to be able to laugh, because what laughter does is it finds that thing we have in common, and it's, I always said it's the release valve that keeps the boiler from exploding. Everybody has struggles, but that ability to laugh is really, really important, and so it's kind of cool to be doing a show that kind of highlights that.
Yeah, and you have a point. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say, I hate laughing. I hate having a good time. Right?
No, they don't. Music's kind of the same way,
yeah.
but it's that little, emotional vacation where you kind of drop the things that are the struggle, and so, how can you not like laughing?
So this show is our escape, and I know there's a big prize up for grabs, but let's just recap in case anybody hasn't seen the show. I know you're about almost 3/4 of the way through on NBC, right?
Yes, that's correct. We're about 3/4 of the way through the first season, and when NBC first approached me about it, anytime you've ever seen a comedy competition on television, it was always stand-up, just, like Last Comic Standing or something. And
right.
So NBC said, you know what, we want to try something different. We don't care how you make us laugh, but you've got 3 minutes to make us laugh. So, if it's a sketch troupe, or if it's somebody with a guitar, or if it's, like, in one case we got like two guys that have been working together, coming up with comedy routines. Kind of reminds me a little bit like of the old Harvey Korman and
Tim Conway, yeah.
Kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that's the idea behind Bring the Funny, is you got 3 minutes and make us laugh. And I'm one of the judges, and of course, I've been doing stand-up for 35 years, so I know stand-up pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Keenan Thompson, who's the longest-running cast member on SNL, Keenan knows sketch comedy about as good as anybody I've ever met. And then Chrissy Teigen, who doesn't really have that background in comedy, she just knows, hey, it makes me laugh or it doesn't make me laugh. And I say she may be the most important job, because that's what she's basing it on. Does it or does it not make me laugh?
Okay, so aside from the obvious answer, make you laugh, what are you looking for in an act, though?
Well, I can't speak for them. What I'm looking for is somebody that just kind of comes out and owns the stage. And I think, as I'm watching them, would I pay money to watch this for an hour? I'm thinking almost like a Vegas show or something. Would I pay money to watch this? And parts of it take me back to early in my career, because I can see people that come out that I know are talented, mm-hmm. but they're nervous, because it's television or because there's money on the line, and that's natural, but the audience doesn't want you to be nervous. The audience wants you to be in control, because if you're nervous, then they get nervous. And so, a lot of it for me is trying to kind of give the pointers to people that are appearing on the show that somebody gave to me 30 years ago. It's like, hey, when you're nervous, try this. Or, like one example would be one act that they were nervous and they were just speaking so fast. And I said, when you're nervous, you have a tendency to rush it. And I remember the first night I was ever on The Tonight Show, and a wonderful comedian named Blake Clark drove down to NBC, and he found his way back to my dressing room. And he said, okay, I'm going to give you a little advice. He said, when you're doing TV, you're going to be nervous. When you think you're going too slow, slow down. And I just always remembered that. And so, I kind of went out there and told myself that, just go slow. You don't have to rush it, because then the audience felt like, well, he knows what he's doing. We can just sit back and relax and enjoy this.
Is it different performing in front of a live audience as it would be, or like, do you have to feel it out when you're doing your act on stage and just kind of test the waters? How do you edit yourself?
Yeah, well, I mean, in live shows are still my favorite thing to do. I've been so blessed. I've gotten to do a lot of different things, but stand-up is still my favorite thing. I enjoy doing TV and movies and voiceovers and writing books, but I just got into it not to get into those things. I got into it because I love doing stand-up, because there's just a thrill with that live thing. And when I'm doing just live, I'm not thinking about anybody but the audience. You're trying to kind of read them, engage them, and go, okay, are they younger? Are they older? Are they hip? Are they conservative? I mean, what you're trying to figure them out. So it's like a dance. And when you do it on TV, you've got that other element in mind. Am I standing in the right place? Am I looking the right direction? Am I? And so I think it's more difficult when you film it. It's not quite as freed up.
Yeah. Have you ever had a misstep? Like, I mean, I don't do comedy, but I do public speaking. And so I was invited to a luncheon, and I thought it was middle-aged businesswomen. So I kind of tailored, what I was going to say to that. Then I get there, and it's actually an older women's social club, basically grandmas. Have you ever had an instance where you all of a sudden get into the room and you're like, whoa, not what I was expecting?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But, I'm willing to bet you still got up there and spoke, didn't you?
I did, but that's the thing, is that I know kind of the jokes. I was making some pop culture references, but you have to dial that back and go, I've got to edit myself in the moment here.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, I think the key to any artist or public speaker or whatever is, it very rarely is the perfect scenario. And so you're always adjusting. Last Saturday night, I was playing at the South Dakota State Fair, and 20 minutes before I go on, they said, it's about to rain. And I said, okay, am I under the cover? Am I under the roof? And they said, yeah. I said, what about the audience? They said, no. And I'm like, oh, no. So I'm trying to make people laugh that are sitting in the rain. But bless their hearts, they hung in there, and I thought, you know what, I'm giving this thing everything I've got. If they want to see it this badly, we're going to do it as well as we can do it.
Well, that's the thing, I know a few local comedians who slug it out, for $50 an appearance, sometimes even just working for, free food or drinks to make a name for themselves. It's a struggle these days with, YouTube. Like, everybody's a writer, everybody's a broadcaster, and, there's endless channels that people can sort of put themselves out there.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's kind of the age we live in, in social media, where, Lord, everybody has a podcast, and everybody has, but it is where you still get better, and part of that, I mean, maybe the ways we execute that have changed, but I found a while back, I was cleaning out desk drawers, and I found the little pocket calendar from my first year on the road, and I did 406 shows, and I made $8,300. So if you break it, that comes to about $20 a show. But that's how you get good at something, is to do it. And so these people that are grinding it out that way, I mean, it may not always be fulfilling, and it may not always be easy, but that is the way you get good at it. I always thought of it for a comedian, it's kind of like the athlete working out in the weight room. Not everybody sees it, but that's where you get strong, and that's where you get good.
I'm just looking at the prize money here, divided by 10 episodes. Wow, these people on the NBC show are making out good then.
Oh, they're doing a lot better than I was back in that day, yeah. And the other thing is they get to perform at the Just for Laughs Festival in Montreal, which is kind of one of those platforms that somebody can see you that would change your life, would give you a special or put you in a TV show or whatever. And so, yeah, it's kind of twofold. It's the money and it's the exposure, which a lot of these people that we're having on Bring the Funny, they've been doing it for years and years and years. They just never really got the exposure they needed to take it to the next level.
Yeah, and if anybody has never heard of Just for Laughs, I mean, that gets, Howie Mandel is forever on there. I'm just trying to think of almost any stand-up.
Anybody.
Yeah.
For me, I think back 25 or 30 years ago and get invited to be on the Just for Laughs Festival. That was a big deal because there's comedians from all over the world, and you've got everybody in the entertainment business, agents and managers, and it's just, exposure that you wouldn't get anywhere else. So, yeah, it's a big, big deal.
And I remember even just a couple weeks ago watching Dame Edna back in the day on there, too, right?
Oh, sure, why not? Well, they've been doing it a long, long time. I remember doing one of the showcase things, and Milton Berle was the host.
Oh, wow.
And I'm thinking, oh, my gosh, I'm doing a show with Milton Berle. This is crazy.
Half of our audience is going to have to Google that reference.
Yeah, who's Milton Berle, right?
I should ask you then, you use the term redneck in your act. Is that one of those that's come under fire as being offensive, or?
Yeah, I think I've had people in the press that have tried to make it that way. And kind of my response to it is like, look, all of these jokes came as my response to being called a redneck,
Right.
And it was always good-natured, but from the beginning of the time I got in the business, I wore jeans and boots, I drove a truck, I loved to bow hunt and fish, and so it was good-natured, but it was always like, Foxworthy, you're nothing but a redneck from Georgia. And as I was starting to travel the country, I said, you know what, this isn't just a Georgia thing, this is pretty much everywhere I'm going, and so... apparently a lot of people don't know what they are. And so I think the biggest compliment I got about it was one time somebody said, you took a term that used to be an insult and you kind of turned it into a badge of honor.
Yes.
And so to me, it wasn't laughing at somebody, it was laughing with somebody.
Right.
Because I could go through probably the first 100 I wrote and go, that's my sister, that's my brother, that's my cousin, that's my grandmother. I wasn't doing a lot of research to come up with the material.
Absolutely. Well, you're right. It's different when you're saying things about yourself, basically, and just having people agree with you.
Exactly. And, we've become, in fact, I was talking to another comic about this today, is we've become so politically correct as a writer of comedy. It does give you pause all the time. Like, I was playing with a bit this afternoon about my wife talking to herself. And the way I had originally written it, I said, sometimes women will talk to themselves. And I went, nope. And I erased it and said, sometimes my wife talks to herself. Because
right.
I knew if I had put women, somebody was going to come back and go, hey, I don't do that. And I'm like, okay, so... I think we all write a little bit different because good grief, somebody's going to be offended by everything you do now.
So aside from that instance, do you have anything from maybe your early days in the act that you've just had to say can't do it anymore because of that?
Oh, yeah. I look back at things that I used to do and I thought, wow, you couldn't do that today. But it's changed that much in 35 years. And so, we just adapt and we keep going.
I think we're going in the wrong direction, though, Jeff, like we said at the top.
Oh, I do, too. I think we've lost the ability to laugh at ourselves.
Yeah.
And, I had a lady that sent me an email, and she said, I've always been a fan of yours. I've been watching you for decades, and then I saw you do a thing about a woman that came up to you that had a big butt, and I have a big butt, and so I was offended, and I'm not going to watch you anymore. And I wrote her back, and I said, I'm so sorry that you're offended. I said, but for 20 years, you've watched me make fun of myself, my kids, my wife, my parents. Have a sense of humor. Learn to laugh about it. It wasn't a character judgment. it's just a joke, and we've kind of lost that. We take ourselves way too seriously now, and we're so easily offended. And I don't know. I just am not offended that way.
I think one of the good things, though, is that when you tune into a comedy show, whether it's on NBC or go to a comedy show, you are going there to laugh. I mean, you're not going there to be offended. Otherwise, you're wasting your money, really.
Yeah, you might as well pick something else to do for the night. You're exactly right.
Right. And so I know you've got some tour dates coming up through the rest of the year, right?
I am, yeah. I was really busy the first part of the year. I slowed down a little bit in the fall, but yeah, I mean, I was on the road last weekend. I'll be on the road this weekend. I probably still do, I don't know, 70 or 80 concerts a year, outside of things that I do for charity and stuff. And I still love it. I still love the process. I was telling that comic friend today, I said, I think I'm more intrigued with stand-up now than I was 35 years ago, because you never figure it out. It's kind of like working on a puzzle you're never going to solve. And what I mean by that is, if I laid carpet for 35 years, I would know what is going to work and what's not going to work. I would have that down. And with comedy to this day, I still don't know as I'm writing, are people going to laugh at this or are they not going to laugh at this? And, that's why I still go to clubs and on Monday nights and play in front of 20 people, because I think that's a much more accurate judge of whether something's funny or not than in a theater in front of 5,000 people. And you still have to work it out. But I couldn't tell you before I hit the stage what they're going to laugh at. But, I just always assume, hey, the audience is right. They'll tell me it's either funny or it's not funny. And they do.
In a polite way. Are there actual hecklers anymore or no?
Every once in a while. I was one of those lucky people. And I think it's because people could tell that I wasn't mean, that I wasn't attacking. But I just never, ever got heckled very much. But yeah, they're still out there. You don't get it so much when you're doing a show in a big theater or something, because people have shelled out a lot of money to see you. But yeah, when you're back in the little clubs working, there's still going to be somebody. And the thing they always have in common is most of them have had one too many, and
yes,
and they're going to try to get the best of you. And part of me thinks, I've been doing this every night of my life for the past 3 decades. Do you really think you're going to win this?
Right. Exactly, right? Who's the one on stage? Who's the one paying to see it, right?
Yes, right. Exactly.
Jeff, we're out of time, and they're also telling me promote NBC. So we're going to be watching Bring the Funny. When can people catch the show?
It is on Tuesday nights at 10 o'clock Eastern, and I think they re-show some of them on, like, Sunday evenings and stuff. But it's really fun. It's just a comedy competition, and it's kind of like The Voice, but not about music. It's just about things that make you laugh.
Right. And then, of course, let's plug your website for upcoming tour dates.
Sure. It's you can go to jefffoxworthy.com or foxworthyoutdoors.com, and it shows everywhere I'm going to be and everything that I'm doing. And you can follow me on Instagram at Real Jeff Foxworthy. Okay,
that's original. Did you come up with the website jefffoxworthy.com on your own? Did you have to?
I did. Can you believe that? Chrissy Teigen came up with Real Jeff Foxworthy. She made me get on Instagram, and I was so proud of myself. I said, Chrissy, I'm up to 40,000 followers. And I said, how many do you have? She said, 27 million. Oh. I said, oh, never mind. We're not going to talk about this anymore. So,
hey, but that's a pretty good start, though.
Yeah, it's a good start.
All right. Well, Jeff Foxworthy, thanks so much for joining us. It was great chatting with you.
Thank you for having me again. Take care. God bless.